Hello, and welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. The topic for this month's show is the John Glenn Astronomy Park. And here to tell us all about it is Jeff Macleod. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Now, before we get into the Astronomy Park, can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm in my senior year studying astrophysics at Wayne State University here in Detroit. I'm also a former president of the Warren Astronomical Society, probably where we met. And I'm also a solar system ambassador for NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, just basically a group of people that talk about space science, and they help us do our job better, and we help them kind of have a idea of how much interest there is in certain projects.
Does the ambassadorship keep you kind of busy in addition to school?
It just gives me a lot of resources, so if someone asks me a rather high-level question, I can actually contact someone at NASA and get an answer. But they don't put me to work. I have to find my own work.
Good to know. Good to know. Now, how did you find out about the park?
So the park was a total accident. My girlfriend and I take a trip in between just about every semester of school. So August is usually our biggest one of the year. And that year we had decided to go down to the Hocking Hills region of Ohio. Beautiful for its geology, which is usually what attracts us to certain locations. And we were driving through the park. It's rather expansive. There's kind of things all over. And we just saw a very small sign that said astronomy party, tonight or Friday, Saturday. And we were there. And so we decided to check it out, and very glad that we did.
Okay, they had you at astronomy party, right?
Pretty much, yeah. Well, you see John Glenn Astronomy anything, and you know that you need to stop. So,
sure. Now, considering the current situation with COVID-19, what's the status on the park?
Well, unfortunately, I talked to their director just a few days ago, and he wanted everyone to know that the park is shut down for the foreseeable future. So, bad time to make a trip out there. I believe the whole Hocking Hills region, which is, completely driven by tourism, is shut down, and you can't really do much of anything in there. So if the park sounds like an exciting thing, I would definitely check out the website before making the trip down there.
All right, yeah, we'll put the website down on a lower third here during the program so folks can check that out. Where is the Hocking Hills and the Astronomy Park in Ohio? Is it near Columbus or?
Yeah, so Columbus is the nearest big city. It's about an hour southeast of Columbus. Puts it about 4.5 hours from us here in the Detroit area. But the Hocking Hills region is, like I said, it's rather large, but the park itself, located inside that greater state park, is about an hour southeast of Columbus.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, you're almost heading towards West Virginia at that point.
Yeah, and the terrain reveals that. It definitely starts to get more like West Virginia down there in southern Ohio.
That sounds like an interesting place. Like I say, we'll have to have the website up so people can check it out for more information and when they're going to reopen. We're going to take a quick break. If you have a question, you can send us an email, as always. The email address is down at the bottom of your screen. And coming up next is Stephen with Term of the Month. Stephen?
Thanks, Don. The term of the month is The Right Stuff. The Right Stuff is a 1983 American epic historical drama film adapted from Tom Wolfe's 1979 book of the same name. And it's about Navy, Marine, and Air Force test pilots who were involved in aeronautical research at Edwards Air Force Base in California. But it's also about the Mercury 7, the 7 military test pilots who were selected to be astronauts for Project Mercury. This included John Glenn, who was the first U.S. astronaut to orbit the Earth. Test pilots at Edwards mocked the Mercury program for sending spam in a can into space, but they recognized the courage that it takes, irrespective of flying skill. It should be noted that John Glenn got his master's, he did his master's thesis in college on orbital mechanics. He knew his stuff, and he knew what he was going to do with it. A common saying in the astronaut course today is that to be an astronaut, you need to be smart enough to be selected and to be able to do the job, and dumb enough to actually do it. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. Term of the month, the right stuff. Back to you, Don.
Thanks, Stephen. Now let's hear more about this interesting venue. Jeff?
Yeah, so this was a presentation that I put together after coming home from the club to try to share it with as many local people that maybe didn't know about it. So hope you guys enjoy. So a visit to the John Glenn Astronomy Park. This was a trip that me and my girlfriend took last year, and we found this place completely by accident. So the same way that a dog park is designed to please the canine, John Glenn Astronomy Park looks like it was very thoughtfully designed to please the amateur astronomer. That it is not an astronomy club, it is simply an astronomy park. But I can think of no better example of how good an astronomy park can be done than the John Glenn Astronomy Park. So first, the who, what, where, when, and why of the park. Well, who? John Glenn, of course, the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth. What? Astronomy Park, right? Where? It is in southern Ohio, about an hour southeast of Columbus. And I've listed some different ways that you can find this place. You can go on their website. You can use this coordinate here. You can use this address. Any of those should get you to the park. About 4.5 hours from the Metro Detroit area. When? After March 6th is when their season is supposed to start. I would guess that it is down because of the COVID pandemic. So definitely check out the website before visiting in person. And then finally, the why. Well, why not, right? And then I've listed their website down here if you'd like any additional info, or you can just Google JGAP, which is the acronym for John Glenn Astronomy Park. So this was the layout that they wanted to build, just to give you an overview of the entirety of the park. So up here we have a parking lot, a building here, and then kind of a plaza area. And we'll break down all these little components here in the next couple slides. They didn't build all of this. I believe over here we have a drinking fountain that didn't get built. They actually built something else out there. And then this, I believe, is one of those water rotating balls. That also wasn't there when we were there, and it's been up for a little bit, so I don't think they're gonna end up building that. And then some people in here just to give you a sense of scale. So here is what they did build. This is from the internet, not our trip. Better photo to just give you an idea of what the plaza looks like when you're there. Let me go back real quick. This wall here is probably my favorite part of the park. This blocks all the light from the cars coming into the parking lot from reaching this plaza area. Very nice when observing, and just another example of how well thought out the park design is. And you can see that wall right here. You can also see some other things in this photo. You know, there's this odd bench and a flagpole. You know, what are the significance? Everything in this park has some sort of significance. As you walk around the park, you'll see many plaques to the donors that made the park possible. So this is on the large wall here, the constellation Leo with a Mercury capsule for John Glenn, and then all around different levels of donation for different, you know, constellations, Polaris, Jupiter, all kinds of good stuff. Also, on the ground itself, some of the tiles are also listing donors that helped create the park. In the very rear, rather than having the drinking fountain and stuff that was in the earlier photo, they have this lovely sundial where you are the dial part. I've forgotten what the fancy name for the stylus of a sundial is called. But it's somewhere in this book. I'll have to look it up later. But how this works is you stand on the month that you are in, and then your body will point to the time that it is. And there's actually 2 rows, I believe, for different seasons, depending on what row you're standing in here. So we were there in August, so way up there. A pretty interesting idea. I thought that was pretty fun. So in the center here, talked about this bench, and then it has this silver sphere mounted on it, and then off to the right here, there is the flagpole, and you can see here there's actually a tube through this sphere in this photo, and you can actually line up that tube and it points directly to the top of this flagpole. And what they've actually done here is created a representation of the Earth and Polaris. So this is kind of pointing you to Polaris. So if you look through this opening, line it up with the top of the flagpole, right behind, well, in this image, right behind the flagpole will sit Polaris, the North Star. So this line here from the sphere to the top of the flagpole is showing you Earth's rotational axis. Very cool little thing to demonstrate. Then there's also a really cool illustration of some scales in the park. So this sphere actually represents the size of the Earth. And at that scale, this pad here represents the size of Jupiter. And actually this plaque says that it's Jupiter. And then the park itself, this outer perimeter here, at the scale of this being the Earth, represents the size of the sun. So the park itself is a model of some of the planets in our solar system, as well as illustrating the Earth's rotational axis. Very cool, really well thought out, and also functional. This pad here, good for sitting and taking a break. There's also power supplies here, so several telescopes can get plugged in over here and then set up around this central location. A nice place to stand for giving presentations, which they do before their observing nights. And then you will also, it's hard to not notice these very odd monolithic structures. There's 6 in total, 3 on each side
you can see in various photos here. You can see the 3 in the background there. And these, you might be able to read, summer solstice, equinox, and winter solstice. These actually have openings that the sun will perfectly fall into during the summer solstice. And so they have them for sunrise and sunset. So you can come out to the park on these particular days in the Earth's path around the sun and see something similar to like Stonehenge, where the sun makes these very neat alignments through these stones. So that angle there showing you their latitude on the Earth, and then that being the path that the sun will take. And so when you're actually in the park, you can see just how much the sun moves against the place where it rises and sets, moves north and south throughout the year. And then going to our building here, a rather large building, and in fact this is a roll-off roof observatory. So in this photo here, you can see there is some framing here. This is all steel trusses, and this entire roof right at this seam here will roll off over the smaller building behind it, and then this entire room here is open to the sky so that you can have telescopes in here. And these are just some of the telescopes that are inside this roll-off observatory. Some awesome pier-mounted stuff, solar scopes, Dobbs, Cassegrins, some homemade stuff, big Skywatcher. I'd love to have that telescope. But their claim to fame, their biggest scope, and the one that people line up like crazy to look through, is this 28-inch Dobsonian that was custom built for the park. Fantastic big scope, and it provides wonderful views. The line can get long, so get in it early. And then finally, this is just what the park can look like on a night that you're there. So down here, before the night really gets going, one of their volunteers giving presentations. You can see they have a pretty nice crowd. It was a perfect night when we were there. Over here, a nice little photo of Jupiter high in the sky. And then selling some of their swag. They are hooked up with the Friends of Hocking Hills, the Hocking Hills region being a very popular tourist destination in Ohio. Fantastic geology. Highly recommend the whole area, really. Hocking Hills is a beautiful place to visit, hike, and explore. Virtually any season is beautiful for different reasons. But definitely check out the John Glenn Astronomy Park when you are there. Check out their website, see when they're going to be open, because it is definitely worth it. And that is all I have for you guys for right now. And I'm trying to contact the people at Hocking Hills and the Friends of Hocking Hills at the Astronomy Park to try to get some more information from them and maybe some photos that they would want shared, and I haven't heard back from them. I'm going to send them another email, and hopefully they reach out to me, because it would be nice to have some of their information for the show. But that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys.
All right, we're back. Now, Jeff, this is really a unique space for amateur astronomers.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of star parties, and most of them are just an open field, which is great because you get, the sky that you need to see. I've been to star parties at marinas and all kinds of weird places, but this was the first time that the astronomer was the key factor in the entire space. And so having everything well thought out before you get there is amazing when you're in the park. The wall that blocks all of the car light from getting to your telescope is something that I've never had to not worry about, and so it was really neat to have that layer of protection, and then all the other neat little facets of the park just add to the experience that you're kind of really ensconced in astronomy when you're there.
Sounds like a great place. Now, what about the sky quality?
The sky quality is pretty good. I just looked at a map recently, and it's comparable to about the thumb area of Michigan. So the Hocking Hills region is rather rugged with all the cliffs and valleys that are there. So there's not a tremendous amount of infrastructure or lights. And the Hocking Hills region has tried to keep itself rather quaint. There aren't giant hotels or anything like that. There's no huge Walmarts. So the whole region is pretty dark, and so they get a pretty nice view of the galaxy, and yeah, it's beautiful out there.
So is there anything that folks can do during the day?
During the day, well, there's the entire Hocking Hills park to explore, so you can definitely do a lot of hiking and that kind of stuff. But if you wanted to be at the park, there's that wonderful human sundial in the back there, so you could figure out if it's time for lunch or not by standing there. If you are going early on one of their observing nights, Friday or Saturday, they do have a solar scope, so you could check out the sun through one of their telescopes. If you had your own, the park is when it's open, not now. But when it's open, it's basically always available, so you could bring a solar scope of your own out there and have a picnic, basically do whatever you want, just enjoy the park. And then they also, those beautiful monolithic things they have for the solstice and equinox, I believe they also do events on those particular dates. So if you want to go and see the sun track through that opening, you would do that, at sunset on the solstice.
Sounds like a really, really interesting place. I'm glad we were able to have you on the show to tell all of our viewers about this interesting park. If you'd like to check our website for more information, please do so. Again, Jeff, thank you very much for being on the program. And coming up next is Stephen with What's Up in the Night Sky.
Thanks, Don. What's up in the night sky for June 2020? The solstice is on June 20th. Days are their longest north of the equator and shortest south. Here at 42 degrees north, sun rises at 6 and sets at 9 p.m. without much variance over the course of the month. Astronomical night starts 2 hours and 20 minutes after sunset and lasts until that much more before sunrise. So astronomical night here at 42 degrees north is only 5 hours. Make the most of it. Planets and the moon are bright and can be seen when skies aren't very dark. The moon can be seen during the day naked eye. I've seen Venus at noon through a telescope. It's tricky to do that, but at a club gathering we had a tracking scope and exactly where Venus was to be found. Pointing the scope at the sun without a filter is an extremely bad idea and to be avoided at all costs. The full moon is on the 5th. Now we had perigee on June 2nd, so this is a bigger 32 arc minute moon. Last quarter is on the 13th, new moon is on the 21st, and first quarter is on the 28th. Mercury has inferior conjunction, that is, it passes in front of the Sun on June 30th. So this is a June 1st Mercury. It's in Gemini, it sets after sunset, and is 23.4 degrees from the Sun at a bright magnitude 0.4. Now, 23.4 degrees sounds like a lot, but it's actually pretty close to the Sun. So Mercury is a dot, binoculars help. Wait until the Sun really sets, and then you'll be safe from pointing at the Sun by accident. And so Venus is shown here on the 30th. Now, that's because it's farthest from the Sun at the end of the month. It's in Taurus and sets after the Sun sets. It's 33.8 degrees from the Sun at a very bright magnitude minus 3.7. Now, 33 points, whatever, sounds like a long distance from the Sun, and it kind of is, but it still could be tricky. You need a really good clear horizon after sunset. Now, the whole lineup, the big lineup, is also at night, but it's on the 30th, and it's at about 1 in the morning. Or maybe even later. So, from right to left, Pluto is between the red crossbars, right next to Jupiter, which is the big white dot, which at magnitude minus 2.6 is probably bright enough to wash out any attempt to see Pluto. Both are in Sagittarius. Nearby to the left is Saturn in Capricornus, a bright magnitude 0.4. Uranus is in Aries as usual, and dim, just possibly naked eye visible, magnitude 5.9. It's best to spot that in a telescope first, so you know what the star pattern is that you're looking for. Neptune is in Aquarius as usual, a binocular or better, magnitude 7.9. Mars is also in Aquarius, a pretty bright magnitude 0.1. Now, a recap of the end of the month, looking down from the top of the solar system. You can see Mercury in green and Earth in blue line up with the Sun in yellow. Venus is white and just off to one side. Mars is red and is just ahead of the Earth, which is catching up. You can see the Earth, Jupiter in yellow, and Pluto in gray line up, so they're close to each other. Progressing counterclockwise, Saturn is white and is nearby. Neptune is in green, Uranus is in pink, and Mars is in red. And that is what's up in the night sky for 2020. Now remember, we don't charge for this show, but we may tax your brain.